What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Down the Middle, the number 5 podcast on Apple, number 3 podcast on Spotify. Things fluctuate like the market. We're like always Bezos changing. Net worth. Yeah, we're always going up and down. But we're going to try to hit our stride like Apple on their earnings, which came in at a whopping $7 extra billion, I think. Like, it's the only company. Everybody earnings reports are like, oh yeah, you know, we expected a down month. It's literally, by definition, we're technically in a recession because 2 negative quarters equals a recession. Yeah. Apple's like, nah, we're good. We're thriving. We just continue to win at everything, which is crazy because the newest thing that they did is they have an Apple phone that is hunter green.
I saw that. Yeah, that's a new thing. Yeah,
that's about it. Hunter green telephone, and you want it. You want it so bad that
Warren Buffett bought another $600 million. So he's into it.
Warren Buffett also. I gotta pull this up. Warren Buffett hates cryptocurrency.
Oh, really hates it? Yeah,
like aggressively. So, anyways, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing good. So I was just looking at the stocks here. I missed Apple's because I was too busy looking at Amazon's because I just got slaughtered.
Yeah, they're going down. Well, I mean, not for long, but they are.
Yeah, I think it's long term, right? Like this is what's tough to watch when you see people like freaking out. Like I just don't care short term.
Right.
It's like people freak out. It's like what's going on right now is brutal, but it's like 30 years from now, who cares?
It'll triple.
It's irrelevant. Like I think Elon tweeted about this actually because he's been on just Twitter tear. We could talk about that today as well. But like, just like invest in companies that you like their products, you buy their products that you think are going to keep growing over the next decade. That are just like good companies. Like it's very simple, and that's what Warren Buffett does. Like Warren Buffett's model is just he only invests in companies he understands. He invests in high quality companies that have great products, great services, and he invests for a longer period of time.
Right.
And it's like, if you just have that mindset going in, you could have a bad month, a bad year, a bad few years. But like, if you don't need that money, who cares?
Yeah, look at Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett does not normally invest in high growth tech companies. He's always been pretty against a lot of that stuff. In the recession, but in the COVID times, everyone was bashing him like, oh, dude doesn't know what he's talking about anymore, blah, 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 like, because he just wasn't winning. He is crushing everybody now.
Oh, yeah.
Because he stays on his path. And, I mean, if you're going to take your money out today, yeah, I mean, you lost everything you put in probably for the last 5 years in Netflix. You probably lost 40% of your stock portfolio on almost everything but Apple, right? But if you don't take it out and you look at this in 2028, I bet you're up 1,000%, and it's just the appetite of how you invest, how you work through things. When I put money into an E-Trade or a Robinhood account, I forget I have it, and it just goes. And then that is the only thing that freaked me out was the capital gains, non-attributed revenue still. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah, unrealized gains.
Unrealized gains.
The sad thing too is that most people do the exact opposite. Because like, it's interesting how we've evolved a lot of our instincts and things that we do and the way we behave and the way we think is based on evolution, right? It's based on it's based on just survival. It's like primal instincts that we just do certain things because tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we needed to just survive. And like the species needed to grow. So that's like a lot of what we do. But we're so irrational. Like the problem is that like technology and our society and everything we do in our life has evolved so much faster than our biology can evolve. So like we still have like caveman brains for the most part, like in the scale of time, and we're operating in this, high tech world. And so a lot of people just make irrational decisions, right? They do things that are not in their best interest, right? They sell low, they buy high, right? Like it's happens every single cycle.
Every time.
People sit on the sidelines, and then when everyone's talking about GameStop, everyone's talking about this stock or this crypto, they're like, I got to get in. And they get in at the peak, and then it crashes or goes down 20, 30, 40%.
They freak out.
And they sell, and they do that again. Like that, it's a really simple recipe to go poor and go bankrupt. Like it's just buy high, sell low, right? But it's like if you can just have patience, right? If you can just think long term, not even midterm, think 5 years, 10 years out, not 20, 30 years out, and just operate with that. Like, I don't need this money today. I don't care whether this $1,000 is worth $1,200 or $800 or $700, $1,500 over the next few years. What I care about is what is going to be worth in 20 years, 30 years, and continue to reinvest, right? That's the other thing people don't do is they don't deploy more capital, right? They put a lot of money in at one time.
That was it.
And And they no longer contribute. And it's like, no, it's dollar cost averaging, right? It's you put it in, whether it's every week, every month, every quarter, but over time, sometimes you're going to buy Apple when it's here, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here, but over time you get a better entry price and you leverage, the value of time. You're able to reinvest. You can reinvest dividends. Like there's so many ways to grow capital, but it's people just, there's such a lack of financial education in this country. Like that is, I think, the biggest crime against like our youth and like the young generation, every generation, is that we don't teach them fundamental skills and knowledge that they need to be successful in their life. And I think the single greatest one is teaching them the power of time and how that impacts your money. And like just teaching freshmen in high school that if you put X into the stock market, into just an index fund, and you do that every month or every year, this is what you can have when you retire. Like just that simple concept could change the lives of so many people.
But how can you teach it when you don't know it? Right. Like I think the reality, teachers are amazing. They do obviously like the best things for our children and stuff. But frankly, the truth is a college professor should be teaching, and maybe even someone above that should be the teacher. Because you have to actually have experience from knowing. Because if not, if you're teaching through a book, they don't believe it, they don't know it. They really kind of like, for the most part, come in, they do their lectures and they go, right. There's a curriculum, they follow it. Open your pages to book 76, page 76. We're gonna go through this. Here's your quiz. We're gone, right. And if you don't know it, there's a conversation like, oh, well, how much do you invest, Mrs. Pabliano, right? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know you don't know what you're talking about. So how can you teach this? I think the whole school system, which I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime. And if we do it, it's probably all going to go technological and like going through like no actual people even connecting, just like through the web, and kind of like how you can go through MIT and all these other course studies now. Like You're going to have to go find it, because it's not going to be something that gets delivered to you the right way.
Yeah, I mean, instead of having, and this will be a topic we covered today, is this, Government Disinformation Board and all these government programs that are horrendous and dangerous and terrible for society. We should have programs that this is all they do. Is it is required across the board. You bring in really smart people at every single high school across the country. They spend, 1 day a month teaching it's not difficult, right? You don't need to be an expert.
You just have to try.
You just need to have structure. You need to make sure it gets taught to everybody equally, right? It can't just be select schools. It needs to be every public school, every it just needs to be like requirement.
If you're bringing the guys that are ripping the notebooks into your auditorium, you can bring people to talk about cryptocurrency, to talk about time management, to talk about like business building.
Yeah, just the understanding how money works,
right,
at a fundamental level,
at a basic.
Yeah, the base. I mean, the fact that right now so many people don't understand, the vast majority of people that work jobs where they're getting paid hourly or even low salaries don't understand that even though they got raises this year, they're actually making less money because inflation is higher than wage growth.
Right.
So people are excited. They're at home like, I got a 5% raise because now everyone's got to pay more for employees. Like, you're getting a pay decrease, right, because inflation is X, it's what, 8% or something now. And so your dollars actually decrease in value. The spread there, your dollar's worth 8% less, but you got 5% more dollars. So it's, that's the trade-offs. People don't understand this. They don't understand inflation. They don't understand investing. They don't understand time compounding. And so most people end up I get money, I put it into a checking account, it sits there. They want to hold it because it's my money, but they don't realize it's losing value. And
it just comes from how we were raised, right? Like we were raised. I remember the first time I ever bought a house, I got in an argument with my wife about it because she was like, hey, I was speaking somewhere in like San Diego, and she's like, hey, we found this house, blah, 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 we're going to buy this house. And I was like, that's a terrible idea. And she was like, why? I was like, well, we can get these other houses that I can go, and the rent of these houses will pay for that house, and we won't have to have a mortgage. And her dad was like, you're an idiot. I was like, no, but it's just, I think different. wasn't taught anything essentially by my parents, so I had to kind of like learn my own things. And sure, both ways are technically right. It's just if you want to spread and create more wealth and get passive income and grow all that, I was a little bit more correct on that stance, right? And we're just taught like, hey, make money, get married fast, have kids immediately, and then go get a job and do right, save all your money, live below your means. And that's kind of like, that's it. That's the teachings. And if you do that, I guess you're a good person. But that just doesn't work anymore. There's so much, and there's so many variations now too.
Yeah, so many. Again, we can, this is a whole thing. Just like all the advice is bad. Don't use credit cards. Debt's bad. Like all of these things that most people teach kids is terrible. I still remember as a kid, like, friends' parents and stuff saying like, I vividly remember this, like, never use a credit card. Like, I use cash for everything. I use cash to buy everything. And at the time, it's like, that makes sense. Like, when you explain it, it makes sense, right? And then you think back, it's like, that was terrible. What was that guy thinking? Like, but that is most people. Most people think this is the smart move. It's, don't use credit cards. Debt's bad. I owe somebody money. It's like, no. Yeah, maxing out a credit card, not paying the balance and paying 25% interest. Yeah, that's a terrible strategy. But using these so you can build lines of credit so you can use somebody else's money, get points, paid off in full, use those points to travel for free, to do all these things for free, right? Then using debt to acquire income-producing assets that pay you more than what it costs to service the debt, right? Like, it's simple math when you explain it to somebody. It's like, hey, I can go borrow money for 3%. I can go buy something that I average 10% a year. I'm
cover my
netting
spread.
7%. I'm making money.
It's arbitrage.
And I'm using it with somebody else's money.
Right.
It's unfortunate that it's like, these aren't taught. Because again, I think if your goal as a country, as a civilization, the human race is like, we want everybody to do better and to be better and to have better lives. One of the single greatest ways you can do that is to bring this type of education into middle schools, high schools, colleges, and require financial literacy, require financial education, start requiring people, like, honestly, even require, like, $50 a month. Even if you're making minimum wage, you can afford $25, $50 a month. Require people to put $25 a month into a 401k,
right,
into a saving, into a investment account in Robinhood. Like, just doing little things like that, starting when you're 16, 17, 18, is going to change people's lives, right? It's
totally agree.
It's sad. It's sad.
So let's talk about the newly formed Disinformation Board, which is crazy because, I mean, I don't care where you're at with this. In my opinion, basically, the whole concept of creating a disinformation board is because the information that is coming out that is valid now needs to be looked at as invalid. And it's federal, so if the government now at any point feels like you are spreading disinformation, even though it's the right information, if it is or if it isn't, they make that choice, you can see jail time now, which is honestly terrifying and reminds me of China. Like, we're taking small steps to make the wrong place happen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're, I got to dive deeper into like the actual authority that this board has in terms of what they can do. It doesn't seem like they have that much actual direct authority. It seems like more they can make recommendations to Congress, different government agencies. But we all know it's just the start,
right?
I think some people are saying, well, it's not really doing anything yet, and the reason it was set up is to combat stuff happening in South Central America, stuff happening in Russia, migration. Like there's reasons why they're saying it's being set up, and those might be valid reasons, and that might be what most people are doing in that division. I think what is terrifying is the slippery slope this creates, right? It's like, it's totally dystopian, right? It's like, I posted the other day about this. Like, this is literally like 1984. Like Orwell. I mean, it's a fictional book, but like more and more every day, it seems like our reality is becoming more in line with 1984 and with these dystopian science fiction books that seemed crazy years ago, right? Seemed crazy even just like probably 2-3 years ago. But now it's like, it's not.
It's so
normal. Not too wild of an idea, but just so everyone's like aware, like the person who's running this, and it's the Department of Homeland Security, it's an agency under that, it's a 33-year-old, right? So Nina Jankowicz. So you have a 33-year-old basically running this government organization that dictates whether something is disinformation, misinformation, whether something's wrong, be able to put pressure. And this is where you get to that ability to kind of circumvent the Constitution, right? It's like, so the private companies censoring you doesn't fall in, you don't get constitutional protections from that, or the private companies, right? The government doing it and infringing on your free speech, they can't do that. Where this gets slippery is you have a government organization that is going to be able to put pressure on private companies to censor speech, right? Then that's basically what's happening with us in Ukraine and Russia right now. It's like, we're not technically at war with Russia. Yeah, but we're giving $30 billion of aid to Ukraine to fight Russia. It's like bullshit, right?
Right.
Like, I think it's a bullshit thing. And like some of the stuff that she has said in the past is freaking terrifying. Like I have, let's see here. So this was back in 2020, 2021, right around COVID. And she tweeted because some high school kids, a high school couple, stood too close to her and they didn't social distance enough. So she tweeted, anyway, long story short, I think we as a country might be too free-spirited, ! To put it diplomatically, to comply with social distancing recommendations unless they're forced upon us. So force away, ! Lock us down. People are not taking this seriously. So like this is the woman who is now, and that's a tweet, it's you can go to her Twitter, you can look at it, who is going to run an organization that is going to control our speech, what's right, what's wrong, who basically says we're too free. America's too free. Like
that's terrifying.
That's what we want. Controlling one of our constitutional liberties is a woman who thinks we're too free as a country,
begging to get locked up,
and that we should lock us down. Damn. And that wasn't the only thing. I mean, she has said so many crazy things. She has been wrong about so many stuff. Like back when the pandemic first started, back when they lied to us about masks. Remember, Fauci basically said, you don't need masks. And then it came out later that the reason he lied to us is because he didn't want them to run on masks. And like, it was a noble lie, right? That bullshit noble lie. It's not, when they do it, it's not disinformation, misinformation. It's noble lying, right?
Yeah.
And so she tweeted basically saying, Facebook, they're doing a great job. They're giving us all this free ad space to promote WHO stuff. She said all the ad tech companies need to stop allowing ads for masks and mask advertisements and all this stuff. It's like, so they knew that like masks were actually going to help, but they were publicly saying like, don't advertise masks, don't promote masks, they're bad. Like this is again why I can't deal with the world anymore. It's like
right.
The hypocrisy every single day of our politicians and government organizations and business leaders and stuff who, for when it's convenient to them, it's not disinformation, it's not misinformation, it's not a lie. It's for this purpose. When somebody else does it that they don't agree with, it's disinformation, misinformation, it's all this bad stuff. So like they literally, the definition of disinformation is what she did.
Right.
She went out there, lied for a agenda because it was in the government's best interest to lie. They had a goal they wanted to get out of that by lying. And so they said something that was a lie. Like that is disinformation.
That's why she runs the board.
And she did it. She did it for the Steele dossier, which turned out to be totally false. And the guy who was the source is now being indicted in like 5 different like criminal charges. She supported that guy for like years, tweeted about it, how good it was, how great he was, how courageous he was, the report, how accurate it was. Like it has been like, there's so many examples of this individual basically supporting disinformation and spreading her own disinformation, but she's supposed to be apolitical and in charge of what is disinformation. So again, like what I'll say, I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, is like human beings are human beings, right? We all have biases. We're all subjective. We all have our own beliefs. And I think giving any one human or group of humans the ability and power to say what is true and accurate and what is untrue and accurate outside of the realm of like science and math and things that are factually proven, like things that you can prove. The world is round. It's not flat. Right, the sun is here. Like there's things
you
that
can't even prove that nowadays because of opinions.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like what I'm saying is like there are things that like 2 + 2 = 4. We have facts,
right?
Things that are just factual, right? But outside of that, it gets murky. It's opinions, right? And so when you're dealing with opinions on stuff, And when you're dealing with different angles, different pieces of evidence supporting different conclusions, right? Like having a group of humans saying what's true and what's not true. And if it's not true, if they deem it not true, it's disinformation, it's misinformation, it's bad. We need to ban it. We need to censor it. We need to do this. Like that is a terrible, terrible idea. And that will be abused. And that will lead to very, very bad things in the future. And that's a fact.
I don't think this is going to last long. I think that it's becoming so aggressive and so right. Like I said, you know, the far right sucks, the far left sucks, but like the level of extreme that we're living to right now is extreme far left, because that's who is majority in office, and the far right kind of like has toned down almost, and like they've just kind of done how Biden became president, just by like being quiet and like sitting in the sidelines. But I think that information is information. Opinions are information, and disinformation. It's really to the point. Like I said, I wasn't even joking. Ben Shapiro just did a thing with a non-binary person that was claiming that science isn't real, and like science is like this thing to attack people because that's not what it needs to be. And he's like, no, but like, I mean, you can't. The argument alone is like, you're born a guy or a girl. Like that's pretty much the thing. It's like saying, you know, you're not born a car. I'm not born a jet. Like I'm born a human, and that. Will that become disinformation? You know, like, because there's other articles about guys being able to and should be able to have their periods. Like crazy, like what? How? You know, like, but is that disinformation? Where is this going to stop? How long is this going to stand for? And is it something that's going to swing? Okay, when we go red, because it's basically going to go from full blue to full red. Like it's these extremes that are going to happen because no one can have a normal conversation anymore. So everyone's going to go full no to this. Take it completely to that. Are they just going to chop everything up and then create their own other agenda that's then going to be like, man, yo, this is extremely intense. Like, no. And like the next decade is just going to be this like color changing war of us being kind of like manipulated like little puppets. Like, go here and do this. You can say this. You cannot say that. As far as like the board, I think it's terrifying. I think, you know, Brian Stewman, he's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist or whatever, buddy of mine. But I wonder if it made sense, because he was like, hey, you know all the bots that happen? Why do you not get verified on Facebook and all these things? And all these bots happen. But like you say something in disinformation, like boom, you get spread, you get shadow banned, you get all that. He's like, it's the same bots that are doing that are the same bots that are like supporting the agenda that these leftist companies want. And I don't care how you slice it, and we've said this before, and you can kind of Google it, it makes sense. Zucks and the majority of Twitter, maybe not now, but every company is very, very far left on that side, and they work more with them. So I think we're just getting told an agenda and being spread an agenda that whether you like it or not, this is how it's going to be. And I think that's really what the board says, is like, okay, cool. So I can see your opinion. I'm going to fact check it now on my bias, and whatever I say is actually what goes, which really is kind of tyranny and like dictatorship and kind of terrifying, just like, again, for what we've always been talking about for almost a year now. And like freedom of speech is just getting butchered and battered, and like it's getting terrified that you don't know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. And if you say it, you can now even get in trouble for saying it.
Yeah. I mean, there is a disturbingly large % of people that believe we are too free.
Which is nuts.
And I don't think that's ever, like in our history as a country, 250 years or so, like that's never existed. Like is this idea that we have too much freedom, this idea that freedom is bad, this idea that conversations and dialogue and discourse is bad, this idea that having an opinion that differs from somebody else's opinion is bad. And not just bad, but it is violence. It is criminal. It isn't just a disagreement. It's when you say a certain word that falls into this bucket of words or phrases you know how to say. It's not just that you're disagreeing with us. It's you are doing something, a violent act to me. You are aggressing me.
Borderline a criminal. And
you're a borderline a criminal. I'm sure there are a % of those people that think that it should be a crime.
Right.
And think that you shouldn't just be banned from social media apps, but you actually maybe should go to jail. And I think that is, we've said this on past episodes. I think what I try to do, and it's really hard to do, is take a step above and think not really about my biases, because I have biases. I have beliefs. None of us sit here and say that we think we're right about everything. There's probably a lot of things we're wrong about, and most things we share here are based on my decades of biases and subjective. Right. But what I try to do, and I think everyone should try to do, is think about what is happening and what would that mean to you if somebody that didn't agree with your views of the world did the exact same thing and had the exact same power and ability, because that should be the standard. We need to have standards that are applicable regardless of political bias and political party, right? We joked about this, like the right does this, left does this, like the my body, my choice, right? They both, on the extremes, use the exact same argument against each other. One did it for abortion, one did it for COVID. It's like, you guys, you can't be consistent. Like, you got to have consistency. If you want people to take you seriously and you know, operate in this world, like, consistency is huge. Hypocrisy makes people don't listen to you. They don't care. And so I think, like, this whole idea of my view, your views are dangerous, toxic, you shouldn't be able to have your views, like, it works for one side right now because most big companies and media companies and the government are all run by the people with the exact same viewpoint, or if they don't have it, they're terrified of the mob, so they just cave to it. Right. And so it's very lopsided right now, but, like, would they be okay if all of a sudden, once the wave happens and more companies get conservative and Elon buys more companies, like, they're already showing they're not, right? Because the very fact that Elon is, you know, buying Twitter, that party's freaking out because they don't want it to happen to them. Like, again, this is the hypocrisy. It's like, you are happy to do it to other people. As soon as it's a possibility that it may happen to you, you have a full-blown meltdown, freak out. This is DEFCON 20. Like, we need to stop this because, holy shit, we might get banned. Right. We might get censored. Somebody might be able to say something that's mean or disagrees with us. Like, if that's the way you view the world, like, maybe you need to rethink that.
I think the Twitter thing is going to be amazing because I don't think Elon's really buying Twitter to, like, just shit on people. I think he's really trying to open up conversations, and I think that's what just has been missing for the past, like, 3 years. Just no one is willing to have a conversation. After, like, 2-3 sentences, we're fighting. Like, it's full beef. Like, I do not hear what you're saying. It becomes, like, childish. Like, you've never ever seen more grown-ups on TV have such aggressive, intense, almost fights because they're not getting their words out because they're not willing to listen to the other party on either side. Doesn't matter. And I think that's we're becoming more ignorant. We're looking stupider because we're not willing to address either opinion. We're not willing to have dialogues and discussions about different situations that could or would be good or bad. It doesn't really matter. We're all just really being connected to create more and more animosity and fights towards each other. I've never seen more segregation by a government besides, like, dictatorship China, right? Yeah.
And then I want to talk about we can wrap on I want to hear your thoughts on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. We can wrap on that because that's just, I think it's a perfect, like, well, just table that for a second. So I think the last thing I'll say on this social, what's happening in kind of society and freedom of speech and the Ministry of Truth and all this crap. What is interesting is watching a political party that knows they're about to get absolutely slaughtered in the next election, not change course
at all.
That is weird to me. Like, I don't understand it. Like, they may have their crazy views that I don't agree with, and I don't
think they think that.
But I also know that they like power. Every Republicans, they want power. They want to keep power. So it's very strange to me to see this party see all the data, all their internal polling, all the external, every poll basically says you are about to get historically beat. And the reason you're going to get historically beat is because of these issues, not because of what you stand for. It's like, not because of your core party principles. Well, maybe they are now, but like what being a Democrat used to mean, but because of these issues, these very, kind of PC things you're getting involved in, this, woke culture stuff you're getting involved in. And you're not only not changing course, you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. It's wild to me.
It just shows how stupid people are and, like, how vain and just not paying no attention to this. But let's talk about Johnny Depp and his ex-wife Amber. So if you guys don't know, basically a few years ago, was it like 2-3 years ago? Amber Heard sued Johnny Depp for like abusiveness. It cost him. He lost Fantastic Beast. He lost Pirates. He lost the Pirates franchise. Frankly, he just now because I was watching this whole thing, and I just watched the new Fantastic Beasts, and he wasn't in it. So I Googled, like, hey, I wonder if he's going to do any new movies. He just got picked up by a movie with a French director. I think it's not even an American movie. And that's, like, going to be his first movie. Great actor, good dude. You know, at one point, everyone hated him because we were told to hate him, which is just the media being manipulative. And I don't know what happened deep down, whatever. But now he countersued, right? And in the countersue, you can see a lot of what's happening, which is just Amber made a lot of that stuff up. She's the one that looks like a complete crazy person. There's a 2.5 million person petition for her to be completely dropped from Aquaman 2, which I think it's fair. If your boy's losing pirates, she should lose Aquaman. But yeah, man, it is just a shit show. Speaking of a shit show, she got accused of
shitting his bed.
Shitting his bed. She was taking Elon just out there going to Johnny Depp's house and pretty much sleeping with Amber. Who was the other? James Franco. Like, crazy stuff. Also, really low key though, sad that this is important to America. Like, this is a huge thing of what's happening in America right now, which is, by definition, the kind of stuff we're paying attention to, or we're told to pay attention to, is making us all stupider.
Yeah. I think what I was going to say before I tabled it in the last segment was, like, if somebody was in, like, a coma for the last 2.5 years, right, and they woke up right before the trial, I said, like, all you need to know about the last 2.5 years of what the mindset and the state of our world was, just watch this trial. Like, this trial perfectly encapsulates what our world has been like and our life has been like for the last 2.5 years. Yeah. Just an absolute shit show, disaster, train wreck that we all couldn't stop watching and talking about. It's been wild. I don't know what caused her to do it, because I don't know if it's ego or she just has some, she has some mental illness or whatever, but, like, she straight up, she won. She got $7 million. Her career was going
skyrocketing.
Amazing. Like, she won. She got it. She got the money. All this stuff. But then she had to tell the story. Like, this is all about, basically, there was an article that came out after the settlement, and it didn't name Johnny Depp. Basically, it was her survivor story, right? It didn't name him, but it was definitely about him. It was obvious to anybody. Yeah. So that's what he's suing over, is defamation. I think he's suing for $50 million. And it's like, really? You couldn't just not say anything. You couldn't just be quiet. And especially if it turns out now, a lot of the evidence saying, like, you made a lot of shit up.
Right.
So it'd be one thing if you actually were really, really abused, if you were a true victim of abuse and just all this terrible stuff, and you get settled and, like, you were so traumatized you had to tell the story. Like, obviously you still, broke. I'm sure she had signed some stuff that said you couldn't do that. You'd still be, sued. But, like, I could get that. But it's like, you made a lot of stuff up, and you got $7 million, and you won the public court of opinion, and you destroyed his life, and you couldn't just not have a story about you or wait a little long. You couldn't wait like a decade or 2 decades till he, maybe he's dead or no longer around, and then you could do your story. But it's crazy, man. I think it's again, it goes back to the state of our media. It's like, you don't need proof, and you can just say
whatever
stuff.
You want.
And our legal system is, innocent till proven guilty. Our public opinion, our court of opinion, our media is you're guilty until proven innocent for these types of crimes.
Right.
And I think it's very, very unfortunate, because it does, every time one of these cases happens, it hurts real women who are real victims of abuse, who will never get not only will they probably never get their day in court, right? But if they do get their day in court, they're not getting $7 million. They're not getting, they're not walking away like she did, right?
No, there's so much now going on about, like, female toxicity of, like, this because of what she's doing, which is now misrepresents people that are really going through a struggle, bad times. Like, people don't believe people anymore. It was all ego, financial, attention, money, all the wrong things. She could have, if this happened for real, because now with like her Wish.com lawyer crew, like they're not winning that at all. They're going against each other. Like, there's so many videos. If you guys like just go in, I really do mean it. Like, she picked them up at like Wish. Like, it is the worst crew.
Did you see the one clip of her lawyer objecting against himself?
Yes.
He says something, and then he's like, hearsay, and the judge is like, but you just said that. You just objected to your own state. Like,
the best.
There's a conspiracy theory on TikTok. I don't know if you saw this, where it's somebody found, it was a photo of like years ago at a Pirates movie opening, and there's a woman in the line to meet Johnny Depp, and people are saying that that's Amber Heard's lawyer. And so the conspiracy theory is that like her lead lawyer, like attorney, is actually a huge Depp fan and took the case just to sabotage her.
Oh my God.
But it is interesting. A lot of the media seems to actually be like, why is everyone taking Johnny Depp's side? And it's so one-sided. It is interesting seeing people still like surprised. It's like, it's just evident. It's like, it's not that people are like going into this way. It's like equally as bad. And there's like stuff. It's like people are just watching the trial. People like are watching the whole trial and seeing like audio clip, phone call, like all of these things that she did. It's like, listen, is Johnny Depp a crazy dude who did some crazy shit?
Probably.
Yeah, but he's been famous since he was a kid. Anybody like that is messed up.
Right.
He grew up his entire life in Hollywood. Ridiculous amounts of money. The dude shot Hunter S. Thompson's ashes out of a cannon to celebrate his funeral. Like the guy's got some stuff going on, right? And you know that going in, but like it's very clear from a lot of the evidence that I've heard and seen that like she was the abuser in almost all instances, right? And like pushed and did like it's like some crazy crap.
Stuff.
Literally like crapping in his bed.
Yeah.
And then saying it was the dogs. And so he's like, I know the difference between like human shit and like dog shit.
Literally everyone does. Like that. It's weird. Yeah, man. It's, you know, when all this stuff happened at the beginning, I was a big Johnny Depp fan, like love all his movies and stuff like that. Big Pirates fans, Fantastic Beasts with my kids and all that. And I was like, man, that sucks. Like I heard he was like, he went broke, he lost all his money, he was like an alcoholic, all these things. But now like listen to him, he sounds very sound, very like well spoken, articulate, awake, aware. He doesn't seem like if you're like a fuck up, you can kind of tell. There's some signs and stuff. And he seems good. And I mean, he does seem like he got abused probably to a point where he was like, I'm done with this, you know? And I mean, I'm not going to take it all the way there, but like there's plenty of times that like I know women that abuse men more mentally and emotionally than obviously physically, but it takes a toll on dudes, right? And maybe some stuff happened there, whatever. But nonetheless, I changed my mind when I started seeing this, and I was like, whoa. Because you actually get facts, which is really going back to the first entire whole conversation that we had at the beginning. Like, you just judge things off of what you see and what are facts or you believe facts to be, right? At the end of the day, who knows the real story? Both of them. And that's truly all we ever will know.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. All I know is that she should have just, stayed quiet.
I wonder if she's going to do Aquaman. We'll see.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, that is it for today, guys. If you guys have ideas or opinions on any of the content that we are creating, go ahead and leave us a review. Let us know what you want to hear, see, or talk about with us. At MaxFin on Instagram and TikTok, and at Los Hustle on Instagram and TikTok. We're just going to start promoting our TikTok.
Yeah, I'm done per Instagram. It's at Maxwell_Fin on TikTok. There you go.
It's at Los Hustle on both. But just go to my TikTok because it needs more help. We're going to see you guys next week. Please subscribe, share this with everybody, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.